Kia ora, good morning. So, I'm doing an oracle podcast because while I was getting my day started, getting my coffee, feeding the animals, having my shower, washing my clothes, because I don't have a washing machine, so I wash my clothes in the shower. It's a mighty thing. It's something I've been doing my whole life, so it doesn't bother me. And it got me thinking about Micah and how similar our stories are when you're a victim of narcissistic abuse and they try to kill you and you're gang stalked and all that sort of thing. You have very similar tales. My ex wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotionally, mentally, sexually, and financially abusive. And I was just thinking about, how I think the reason why she came to me is that she identified that our stories were very, very similar. And as as an occult physicist and ascension scientist, this is all my area of expertise when it comes to um, dealing with things involving the underworld like death, unsolved murders, unsolved mysteries, that sort of thing, but also seeing things that are hidden in the dark and helping people ascend. But I specialise in people who are high functioning, creative, empathic geniuses, like your creative minds, your writers, your musicians, your artists, your programmers, that sort of thing. The people whose brain runs on a higher frequency to the rest of society because they're born in the creation frequency. They're born to create and manifest the things that are developed in their mind. They have skills and talents and stuff that are supposed to, once they finish their ascension, lead them down a path where they get to make great change in the world. Now, with Micah, she was a singer. She loved to sing. She had a beautiful voice. And one of the things that attracts a narcissist to an empathic person, and I'm not talking about your normal empath hippy dippy, I'm talking about the empaths who have a gift that's special, a gift that touches people in a way that nobody else can, whether it's through their music, their art, their stories, their games, their movies, their photographs, whatever. And she loved to sing. She was a musician. She had a beautiful voice. She had the potential to maybe even be like a proper gospel singer. And her husband, JP, her was soon to be ex-husband, recognised that in her from a very, very young age. Starts out supportive, and then the second they get you in their grip, they start smashing your dreams and chipping away at your confidence. Now, within a couple of years of when I first met Chris, I'm the reason why he got into video games. He was working on his portfolio, learning to do graphics and that on the computer because he was a graphic designer and he wanted to go into making games, doing graphics for games. And he didn't have the confidence. If you hear me faffing about it, it's because I've just had a shower and I'm getting myself ready for the day. He didn't have the confidence to apply for any jobs. And because, I specialised in the creative empathic mind, and back then, he was a very gifted man. I talked him into applying for the job, as did his father, but I explained to him, I said, this is what I see, and I time jumped. He was one of the very first people I did a time jump with, and I described the building he was going to work in and all of that. I remember saying it had like glass on the outside. I think I said it had like a glass elevator and blah, blah, blah. And he ended up plucking up the courage to apply for a job at Codemasters, and he got it. If I go silent, it's because I'm drinking my coffee. I just can't even function properly without at least 2 cups of coffee in the morning. So then, he was all about, when he came over to New Zealand to meet me, and I took him and showed him around Australia and all of that. Before he left to fly back to Edinburgh, he said to me, I want you to pack up, I want you to come to the UK, and I want you to start doing these readings. You've got to be doing these readings. I was already doing them in New Zealand. I even got to go with my teacher, Pauline Wardell Braddon, who was quite a well-known Australian metaphysician and that. I got to go with her to the radio station in Wellington when she came to stay with me, where she did like call-in, where people would call, she'd sit in the booth and people would ring the radio station and ask them questions, and she'd do quick little readings for them and answer questions. And I knew then that's what I wanted to do. My sister and I used to pretend to do talkback radio and that when we were kids. And we'd record ourselves and we'd play our records and, pretend like we were taking requests and things like that. And sometimes we were even the records. But watching Pauline sitting there with the headphones on and taking those questions and sitting in the producer's box, I was actually doing a reading for the producer while Pauline was working, but she took me to show me the ropes because I think she always knew I was destined to talk for a living. But after she left and Chris came over, he said to me, I want you to be with me in the UK by the end of the year. I want you with me, and you need to be doing these readings and stuff. So I came over, I sold up everything, I got my divorce finalised and everything like that, and I came over to be with him. And then it was like I handed him all my money from my divorce settlement in cash. And then it was like from that moment on, he had a grip on me and he started controlling me, and I didn't realise it. Like, for example, I'd only been in Great Britain on the other side of the world, far away from everyone, that he was literally the only person I knew. And his family didn't like me. His mother said I was a prostitute and a witch and a drug addict, and that I wasn't welcome in the house. So after only a few weeks of me being in the country, I was left in Great Britain by myself at Christmas time. And all he left me with for nearly 2 weeks was 2 litres of milk, a thing of potatoes and a loaf of bread. But I still married the retard because they're very good at mind manipulation. They're very good at telling you they know you better than you know yourself. I got offered the opportunity to do readings in a health food store. He decided I shouldn't do it because I'd be getting ripped off. Then I had the opportunity to make a demo tape to send into Sky, where I would have been, because I had basically said, look, I have this idea, and they said, great, send us a demo. And it was to rival Most Haunted, where instead of going around saying, ooh, ghost, look at this, I'd be explaining what it actually really was. It was before I became a fully fledged occult physicist. I understand now why these ventures didn't take place, because I didn't know half as much then as what I know now. I would be embarrassed if I went charging ahead and making those shows, not knowing the stuff that I know now, because then I would have had to have gone back and said, actually, I got all of that stuff wrong, or I misunderstood what that was, or, I didn't understand it all. So I do understand why these things never panned out, but the reason why I didn't send in the demo tape was because he said to me, you realise you're going to have to be on camera? And I was like, yeah, I know. And he's like, but you already have low self-esteem issues. The camera adds 10 pounds, and you already have like body confidence issues and that, and you're going to go on TV looking like this, is what he was saying. Dream smashing, chipping away, chip, 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 chip. Then I got my big break with the radio show in Chicago, when I went over there, and I was given a 13-week contract, and if I like it, I'd sign a 1-year contract, and I was supposed to get like all this advertising to help pay my way and all of that, to, you know, pay for my airtime and all that. And my first show, like, I broke records at that radio station, WRMN 1410 in the Fox Valley in Chicago. And I actually achieved a couple of firsts at that radio station that my co-host Chuck actually announced on the radio. My first show, when I was in Chicago, I had paid for his boyfriend, Andy, Andy Dilks. They stole my book and wrote my books together. I paid him to babysit the boys, so because Chris was working. So I had saved up enough to be able to pay him off. We were paying him to basically babysit the boys, and the boys hated every minute of it. But my first show, when I rang him, he was so proud of me. He was like, "Oh my God, like, that was incredible. You were born to do radio. I'm so proud of you." You know, like, and you know, he was genuinely proud of me. He saw where this was going. But then I was supposed to be there 3 months, and I was back after a few weeks because I all of a sudden he stopped listening to my shows. All of a sudden, I don't have time for that. That's your career. That's got nothing to do with me. And then I get a phone call. Andy doesn't want to do this anymore. You're going to have to come back and look after the boys. Completely smashed and sabotaged my career. Because then I came back to the UK and had to phone in my radio shows with really bad connection, where I was constantly getting cut off. Sound familiar? And it was embarrassing. And then Chuck asked me to lie. He wanted me to stage fake results, and I couldn't do it. And then that was the end of my radio career. However, when I came back to the UK, when Chris and the boys picked me up from the airport, I just got bombarded with this. Your students contacted me and told me that you're trying to control me, and they said, "We'll help you get her kicked out of the country, and we'll help you get custody of the boys." Sound familiar? This was in 2017, mind you. And then he said, they said I was going to put a tracking device in his vehicle. Where the hell am I? Yeah, like, really? And then he said, when I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" These were all students that I'd kicked out of class for not doing the work, and because they were liars and they were lazy, and I wasn't getting paid. I was going without being paid. I was trying to turn this into a career, and they completely sabotaged it. The second I kicked Rhea Brown out of class, that's when she turned against me, played the victim, didn't tell anyone it was because she was causing trouble. It was because we'd had an argument because she was expecting her sister to bow down and kiss her feet, and I took her sister's side. She didn't like that at all. So then she started turning on me and videotaping like our conversations, and I was trying to like make peace because I knew what was coming. But by that point, like, the avalanche had already started falling, and then they brought Chris in on it. And then when they brought Chris in on it, they brought my husband Martin in on it. And then they brought my best friend Jose in there. And then what Chris did, which is what Micah's husband did, which is what a lot of these people do when they try and blame you for and pin the mental health thing on you. They use their position. I'm an art director of Sumo Digital. I would never do that. I work in telecommunications for the Air Force. I had to have Secret Service clearance. I would never do that. I'm the President of the United States. I would never do that. I'm a minister of a church. I would never do that. She's just a single mum. She just does these little podcasts. I'm an art director. She just works at a cafe. I'm a minister. She just works at a blah. I'm a blah. Because then what happens is, the second they realise, holy crap, they're going to end up getting more attention than me. They're going to end up being famous and leaving me, and I'm going to be humiliated because I'm the one that needs the attention. I'm the one that needs the fame. I'm the one that needs to be admired and looked at and that. Whereas like the high funk, I call them high funks, but if I say high funks, I'm meaning high functioning, creative, empathic, genius or creative. I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm saying the people I help are geniuses. And so they chip away. They chip away at your confidence and they chip away at your potential, because secretly they don't want you surpassing them when it comes to fame and recognition and getting contracts and getting all the glory. So they put a stranglehold on all your potentials and sabotage all your potentials to stop you from rising above them. And that's exactly what Chris did. Chris wanted to be known as a famous artist. He wanted to have #1 selling games. He wanted to have his own games company. I even suspect that's what, Trump and all that, when the CIA, when they all got involved in trying to stop me from whistleblowing on the pedophiles and that, on the pedophile ring, which is why I mentioned with Micah about her husband and father-in-law were pedophiles. And they had standing in the community where they would have had access to politicians and people in law enforcement that would have helped them make a lot of stuff go away, because that's exactly what happened before Micah died. Victims were coming out with claims and that were suddenly vanished. So her parents need to look into who the husband and the father knew, because I know a lot about this when it comes to pedophile rings and sex trafficking and grooming. And JP Miller was a groomer. He did groom Micah. I know a lot about this stuff. This is why they keep trying to kill me. This is why they've sabotaged my career in that, because when I was getting out on the radio waves and all that, I was already investigating the human trafficking and pedophile situation connected to Hillary Clinton and that anyway, which ended up leading me to the whole Epstein thing and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and everyone. And then also discovering that the royal family were used as bait. So they had a lot of reasons to shut me down and shut me up, and they got Chris involved. But they didn't realise at the time that they were going to be walking right into an international sex trafficking grooming gang conspiracy. Well, no conspiracy, investigation. Fact, everyone knows about the grooming gangs. And it led me to Keir Starmer, and it led me to Tony Blair and Boris Johnson and Yvette Cooper and Ed Balls and Ursula von der Leyen and Zelensky and Macron and Jacinda Ardern, Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, all of them. And it turns out it's all been a conspiracy. I've been making the videos. So I started out with my Eye in the Sky shows. I thought, well, while I'm waiting to get justice with what Rocio did, who was a pedophile, she tried to kiss my son when he was 7, the one who works in the Air Force, who hacked my phone. And she ended up having relations with both my husbands, my ex and my soon-to-be ex, and my best friend. They passed her around like a joint. So it ended up all being connected to pedophiles anyway. And this is what I was thinking with Micah, because of who her husband and father-in-law were and what they did, there's more of a reason why she came to me than met the eye. And see, now that I'm fully awake and I've been walking around like I'm thinking with perfect clarity, whereas before I was all jumbled because I was still trying to make sense of everything. I got thrown into an investigation with her I wasn't prepared for, but now I'm prepared and I've been able to get everything all in line. And it is all connected. And so, because then it got me thinking, he smashed her dreams. When you're married to a narcissist, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they are dream smashers. They're attracted to your light, but they're moths to a flame and not butterflies chasing the sun. When you're a butterfly, when you're attracted, when you're a butterfly attracted to that light, you pollinate. You want to spread it and spread the seed and help beautiful things grow because you're a master maker. But when you're a moth, you chase false light and it ends up, a moth to a flame. It ends up being the whole thing that causes your destruction. When a narcissist looks at you, they see your light and I can be like that, I want to be like that, I can join her, we can do this together because we're the same, until they get up close and realise that, that burns, that hurts, because your light is too bright for them. Your light then starts irritating their demons because your light is natural, whereas their light is false. Because they think that they're mirroring you, but they're mirroring, you reflect back to them all the negative things they don't like about themselves. She's going to be a famous gospel singer, I'm going to end up nothing. Like when she stands up and sings in my church, people are going to be paying her more attention than my sermons. That sort of thing. That's what he was. With Chris, I was getting into, art and entertainment. I was starting to design dating apps and coming up with ideas for the Quantum Menace video game and the Soul Collective video game, and that was his area. Don't you dare come near video games because you've got ideas that are better than mine, that are better than anything I'm going to work on, and I can't have you making better games than me because I'm the one that wants to be the number one selling game designer. I'm the one that wants to have the games company that makes the number one selling games. And so they all conspired to smash my dreams. They stole my bakery idea, they stole my books, they stole my movies, but everything they did was a knockoff version. They stole my oils, and everything ended up failing because they chased false light, because moths aren't meant to follow the sun, butterflies are. And the narcissist is a moth to the empathic flame. But when that and all narcissists, like all psychopaths, will have a platform. Whatever it is they do, they will be the one that gets all the attention, because it's all about making sure they have control over how people see them. And they do not want people seeing that they're wearing a mask. And they will hide behind the empath. They will always have empathic partners because the empath makes them look better and can hide the mask. But the outer world doesn't know that the empath has been abused behind closed doors, and they're fed the abuse in such a way where it can take them a long time to pluck up the courage to step out of it. But they make you feel like you can't do it without them. You're never going to be anything without me. Chris used to say, I'll help you. I'll help you find the artists and programmers and that you need for your games company. I don't want to work for you, but he used to say, like, don't put anything in the game without my say so, and I'll help you find all the stuff that you need. So I was like, okay, cool. And then the deal was I would fund him. I'd be like his benefactor. I would pay him to retire and go out and do his paintings and do his art on his bike and in his camper van and stuff. And if he wanted to put any of it in my gallery, he was more than welcome to do that. Originally, he was going to be the art director, but then he said he didn't want to do that. He was sick of games. He wanted to get out of games. As long as he watched over the stuff that I was putting in it and helped me pick my employees for the games company that I want to call QE2 after the Queen. QE2 Games. Then that was the deal. But then it turns out it's because he realised that I was starting to come up with things that he wasn't going to be able to come up with. And if people got wind of the sort of stuff that I was making and creating, even my son said, one of my games I came up with called Your War 2, he said it was an an Ort's wet dream. That the stuff I was creating was just going to have people like, oh my God, with it. So Chris couldn't have that, so he chipped away. He a dream smasher. You know, while I was waiting to get justice for the whole Rocio thing, with what Rocio did, not realising that Trump and Musk and Secret Service and that were all involved as well. I knew my students were, I knew Martin was, I knew my best friend Jose was. I didn't know Chris was until he tried to kill me that night. But while I was waiting, I started making my Eye in the Sky shows, which is where I'd go around the National Trust places you'll see on my channel to master and fine tune my time jumping skills, because I want to make my shows when I get out of here. I want to have a little. I want to get out of here. What I'm hoping to do is to find someone who can drive and get me and my boys, and we get in a car and we drive around the United Kingdom before I leave, and make my Eye in the Sky shows, because there's so many places that I want to go to in Great Britain, so that I can make my Eye in the Sky shows, because I time jump and I'm trying to show people how beautiful the supernatural is compared to the paranormal, which takes me back to my pilot demo tape that I was supposed to send into Sky. I was going to be juxtaposed to Most Haunted, where they went around investigating ghosts and using all their bleep blop bloop bloops to investigate ghosts and paranormal sightings and that. I'm doing it from a scientific point of view, where I was explaining it from a it's not actually this, it's this, and this is what you do to fix it. So that's what my Eye in the Sky shows were. And he was taking me around these places, and I was going to these National Trust places and that, and doing these time jumps that were coming up with phenomenal scientific results that were proving that the supernatural and the paranormal are two very different phenomena in the occult sciences, and I'm the only one that can explain the difference. And the Eye in the Sky show shows you physically, where you actually physically see it. My connecting the dots in my podcast, where I work on like the unsolved mysteries and the unsolved murders and that, where it's just me talking and giving my hypothesis and throwing my hat into the ring on what I possibly, armchair detective, armchair private eye sort of thing, giving my perspective on what I think possibly it could be. And in cases like the Black Dahlia, the Black Dahlia and Jack the Ripper and that, and the Aileen Moore. Remember I was talking about the lighthouse? I forgot the name. It's Aileen Moore. I had to revisit those, because once I realised that there was other elements involved that I hadn't seen the first time jumping the gun, I then had to go back and revise them, which is why I understand these shows never took off in the beginning, because I would have had to have gone back and revised a lot of these things, and it would have been embarrassing for me. I would have been humiliated. Not with I'm not with the Jack the Ripper and all that, because I still stand by what I've said. With Aileen Moore and that, like what I hypothesised to what I revised were two completely different things. And if I'd put any of that out on the airwaves as a paid radio presenter or TV presenter, that would have been embarrassing. I would have been trolled. People would have come at me and like how they are with Elon Musk. And I don't want that, because I'm a scientist now. I'm a fully fledged occult physicist, and I know my shizzle. And I would have been humiliated. I would have been embarrassed getting all of that stuff wrong. So I understand why it was removed. But then in trying to build it back up again, doing my Eye in the Sky shows where I'm physically present in the locations, and my connecting the dots where it's my podcast. And then of course these ones, Oracle of Delphine, where I'm just using my words of wisdom to help the high funk understand who they are, what their purpose is, and help them through their ascension process, because it's only high funks that are given the opportunity to ascend. Chris was given the opportunity, my students were given the opportunity, and they chose the other path. They chose to descend. So now where I'm stepping up and helping the king and Vladimir Putin save the world and stop wars and expose the most evil people in history in order to protect children and guarantee a future for the children, they ended up conspiring and becoming embroiled in the whole Jeffrey Epstein British grooming gang, human trafficking side of history. So that's the difference between an ascension and an ascension, all because they didn't like the fact that I was expecting them to do the work, that I was expecting them to have high moral standing. When I fed them my blood, they jumped on it like a feeding frenzy, just like they did with Prince Andrew. They jump on it like sharks when they smell blood, and that's what my students did. Everything I fed them, even though it's in there, was in their contracts, everything I say and everything I do is a test. I used to say that over and over and over again. Just remember, everything I say and everything I do is a test. I needed to know whether these people could be trusted around children. I needed to know whether my husband could be trusted around other women, and they all proved me right that they couldn't be trusted. So these were people who ended up protecting and covering for pedophiles and human traffickers and sex traffickers, from presidents down to taxi drivers. I think she was the Uber driver the last I knew, protecting them all working together, Secret Service, to betray the king, commit high treason, because in the end that's what they did. They helped Trump and Musk and the CIA and Secret Service and Keir Starmer, and they commit high treason to my king and petty treason. They all conspired behind closed doors because they knew they were never going to be me. They were never going to go where I was going to go, and I was going to make damn sure that by the time I got to build my art school, that everybody who came on board with me could be trusted around children and could be trusted not to go running around sleeping with each other. Rocio slept with so many people I know. If she had, luggage labels, she wouldn't be able to walk around holding herself. It turns out none of them could be trusted around children. None of them could be trusted with secrets. None of them could be trusted not to gossip. They all jumped on it like sharks in a feeding frenzy. And then all the ones that were already seeing what I was about to become as a threat anyway, like Chris and Martin, they had every reason to join in and try and stop me. And that's what Micah's husband did, getting other people involved, playing the victim. Well, I'm a minister and I'm this and I'm that. And so these moron doctors and cops and that will think, well, why would they lie? If they're not because they're pedophiles and that themselves, well, we need to shut this up to cover it up. Because I'm wondering whether, with Micah, whether the age that she was when they met, when they entered into a relationship, he was known to do things with younger members of the congregation and that, just like the father. But with the father it was boys, and with JP it was girls. Pedophiles all know each other. They all have this. They think it's secret underground network, but especially in America, they all know each other. It's a network. It's an international ring. It's people, who are judges and cops and lawyers and governors and senators and presidents and that, where they all have each other's back because they can't risk being exposed. And I'm wondering that's why the father and son went after her, because they were risking getting exposed. And that's why I think she came to me, because her and I have a lot in common. And I think she knew, because of the work that I do with, pedophiles and sex trafficking and who it's all connected to, and I've had to deal with everything I've had to deal with. We had a lot in common, and I think she thought she could trust me, just like the Queen. Most cases that I work on, when it comes to my connecting the dots, we we have something in common. I'm able to identify and see it from a different angle than other people, because I see like the subtle nuances in the frequencies and that other people don't, because I'm able to see it from like a darker underworld level that nobody else can, because they don't know it's there. But human trafficking, child trafficking, grooming gang, like this is all my area, and occults. And I'm sorry, but most evangelists and all that, most religions are a cult. I don't care what you say. Most of them are a cult. Um, so he smashed her dreams and kept her below him on a social standing, because he couldn't risk her getting more attention than him. And then when she plucked up the courage to leave, he couldn't risk being exposed as a fraud, and a pedophile. And because my ex knew that by me walking out the door and starting this new career where I was going to be more successful than him in his own industry and in the entertainment industry, and do good things and stop pedophiles and grooming gangs and that, which is who he was working for. I don't know what they promised him once this was over and done with. If you do this for us, we'll let you have a games company or something, because they tempt you with what it is they know you want the most. He has no interest in women. That's why he has so many lovers and doesn't use protection, and hides the fact that he's bisexual and likes to wear women's lingerie and that sort of thing. He couldn't risk me exposing him, because I knew things about these people, about the people in my life, that they couldn't risk being exposed. So they all worked together to try and sabotage my career. But then what they actually did was, that night he put the cocaine in my pizza and laced that weed. Um, God jumped in and said, "Do everything I tell you to do." That's why she said in my dream, "You're the one that works for the Lord." He said, "I need you to do everything I tell you to do and record everything, document everything," which is what I did. And now, what I was put through ended up pointing me in the exact direction I needed to be pointed in order to expose Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, pretty much since Tony Blair. Having that connection with the Queen is ending up saving Great Britain. The King is starting to listen. I'm helping save the King. I'm helping stop a third world war. I've exposed an international human trafficking ring through the EU, using my abilities, using my gifts. So now that I'm powered up, now that I have mastered my gifts and abilities, I can't wait to get out of here and start making my eye in the sky shows, get my teeth fixed, get the clothes that I want to, look nice, and then find myself a driver with a good quality camera and microphones, get my boys, book ourselves hotels around Great Britain, travel around the United Kingdom, making my eyes in the sky show now that I've got the gifts that I have, do my little podcasts and that from my hotel rooms, and then find somewhere to move to and apply for a visa and go. If it's not Russia, then Hungary. I was thinking Italy, but after what I found out about Italy, no chance. They've signed up to suck the souls of the innocent in Gaza, and I mean, it's typical of the land of the Pope, really, isn't it? So if not Russia, Hungary. So, yeah. If you're with someone who, because like when you first meet them, they're like these lambs. They're just so sweet and nice and very charming, and that's one of the reasons why we stay so long, because they do this thing of like hammering you, hammering you, hammering you, and then acting all sweet. And Chris used to say, oh, I didn't mean it. It's just, I'm so stressed at work. It's because of my depression. And, I've just got a lot on my plate. It's because I'm worried about my finances and all that. That's the reason why I do it. That's no excuse. That, oh, I'm using you as a punching bag because I've overspent. I didn't mean it. No, it was just a joke. God, can't you take a joke? God, you can never take criticism. But then every time you try and pull them up about stuff they do wrong, they get so offended. I would never. Don't you dare. How dare you? And then play the victim. You hurt my feelings because you told me the truth because you stood up for yourself. Hammer, 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 hammer. My first husband used to say to me, What do you know? You got kicked out of school at 14. Hammer, 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 hammer. When I wanted to do the readings, I got no support. I don't believe in that shit. Why would I support it? When I was starting to do the readings and getting into the idea of wanting to do radio and that, got no support from any of them. My first husband, his family used to stand there and call my family the N word. I got told I was from the wrong side of the tracks, and that any kids that we had together would be half N word. So yeah, I jumped from the frying pan into the fire with that one, because then when we broke up, I left New Zealand to be with Chris, and then yeah, I say Great Britain raised me. My God, did I see some? I've seen some battles in this country. I'm ready to leave now. I can't do with islands anymore. But I want to make my shows before I leave. I want to go to Portsmouth, and I want to see where Charles Darwin was. I want to see if I can meet Charles Darwin, like I met Leonardo da Vinci and Van Gogh when I was around their stuff. I see things. King Charles I, and it's incredible. And I want to share that with the world. With my Eye in the Sky shows, I want to travel the world and make my Eye in the Sky shows and show people what I see and show them how incredible the supernatural is. Once I've dealt with everything I need to deal with, I don't want to have to deal with Jeffrey Epstein and grooming gangs and that again, other than the fact that I will then have a safe haven for the kids that are rescued until they're repatriated or rehomed or sent to their, other family members and that, have a place for them to go to until it's safe for them to leave. That's the only part I want to deal with from them, because I've been dealing with this for a long time. I have been battling my students and my ex-husbands and that behind closed doors for them. They were doing it behind closed doors since 2017. And then 2022 is when it all kicked off for Hillary Clinton and the CIA and all of that, 2016. But for my students and my exes and that, 2017. And then 2022, they brought my family in on it. And my family turned on me as well. So they all ended up protecting and defending an international child sex trafficking ring and child groomers. Because Chris went to the police and the doctors and said, I'm an art director of a games company. She's just a single mum who writes some stuff and makes little YouTube videos. She doesn't make any money. She doesn't have a social life, although he told people that I think that I was sleeping around. I said to my boys just a couple of weeks before this happened, if anyone ever comes to you and tells you things about me, promise me you'll come and ask me first before you believe them, because you're going to be fed a lot of things, especially to do with my purity. Because the other thing as well, narcissists will always accuse you of the things they're guilty of. So I was accused of being a whore. And that's what this lady at social services said: when you've got the kids around, try not to have your boyfriends around. I said to her, I beg your pardon? I said, I haven't been with a man since 2015. I said, I don't have boyfriends. I was so offended, like, how dare you, you filthy little tramp, tell me that I'm a whore? I've kept my legs closed since 2015 because I'm waiting to meet the man of my dreams, thank you very much. In the meantime, he's got 3 girlfriends on the go. Sam Tarot, Katie Hamilton and Jodie, the one that he essayed, the one that he R-worded at the Christmas party. That he was seeing all 3 of them, and then I find out, talking to some of his women, he didn't use protection with any of them. All these women put him on a sexual predator watch list online, because I found out about it and put it up on my ex and that. He's actually, there's websites you can go to in the United Kingdom where you put in your local area, and you're not allowed to put in their details, just their names or something. Women had been registering him on this website to say you need to watch out for him because he's a predator. And I've kept my legs closed since 2015. I haven't been kissed since my wedding day in 2017. But my husband Martin was in prison in New York and I'm in the UK. And we never even got to consummate our marriage. Under New York law, I can outright get an annulment for that. He's supposed to be paying me alimony. And I don't want anything from him. I just want an annulment. I want to get his tattoo off my arm, and I just want to get him off me. Same with Chris. When I think about when he used to sexually abuse me, when I'd wake up in the middle of the night and he would be doing those things to me, every time I think about it, I tell you now, I tell thee, I can still feel where the aftermath landed on my legs and butt and back. It's like it burnt into me. His sinful deeds literally burnt my pure flesh. I haven't kissed a man, held a man, touched a man, other than hugging like my neighbour, who I loved like a son. No contact with men. And yet he'd gone around telling people that I was sleeping with everything that came near me. And I said to the police when they came to do my when they came to take my report for the historical sexual abuse, I said to them, the last man I had sex with was him in 2015. And it's 2026 now. That's how long I've kept myself pure. I said, you can take me to a gynecologist, he can do an exam, and I'll prove to you I haven't been touched. And then, because he told the police, because the police said to me, are you sure this wasn't consent? At no point you had consensual sex with him? And I said, no. And I said, you can check. And then later on, the last time I spoke to the boys when they came here, so he told the police, it's on record that he said it was consensual, but then he told my sons, which is also on record, people heard that conversation, whether he knows it or not, people heard the conversation that I had with my boys, where he said, I didn't know she didn't want it. I thought it was okay that I was doing that. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. And I said to the boys, why didn't you go to the police and say, Dad's just admitted to sexually abusing my mum? She was telling the truth. And the answer I got was, because we're just kids. I said, you could have had him arrested a long time ago. You could have ended this for me just by making that call to the police. We were just kids. We're just kids. And I'm not upset with them. I'm upset with the situation. Because a narcissist, they're very good at getting other people to see the victim as the broken one, as the one that needs to be feared, as the one that needs to be avoided, as the one who was broken. Mike is just lucky that she had the love and support of her family. I didn't. My family were only too happy to feed my blood when I fed it to them. All the stuff that I fed my students, even though it was in the contract, remember everything I do and say as a test, everything I fed them was to see how they would react, and they failed every test. And I called it, my teacher, when Pauline was training me, she said she said to me, when you get your students, you're going to be harder than I am. You're going to be tougher than I am. And I was like, I would never. I'm going to be like a kitten wrapped in candy floss, flying on rainbows. And now people are scared of me. I've got presidents and prime ministers and billionaires terrified of me. But she used to say, you're going to have to administer the test of faith. You're going to have to trust the people around you. If you're looking to have relationships with them, if you're looking to bring them in on your business, if you're looking to bring them in on what you're destined to do to fulfill this ancient prophecy, you're going to have to take leaps of faith and trust people with certain bits of information and certain bits of yourself to see where they're going to take it, and to see if you can trust them. So, any potential love interest in that, trusting them with information, trusting them with my address, trusting them with certain things to see if it would be used against me, knowing that it would be against the law, and, I could take them to court and all that sort of thing. Like the stuff that I post about my stories, Donald Trump and the lover of someone I knew immediately stole the Dear Satan clause, and then sold it to Paramount Plus, who turned it into a retarded movie. Chris and Andy stole my books. He stole my products, but they were unfinished. And having to tear it all down and rebuild it and start again because I wanted nothing to do with what they'd stolen and turned it into, I ended up taking coal and making diamonds with it. They took the coal and they don't know how to make diamonds, but I do, because I'm a eighth elemental alchemist. So when she said I had to administer the test of faith, the way she described it, I said, that's the Judas test. So I call it the Judas test. And it said that when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he knew the betrayal was coming from his best friend, from the people that he cared about, he was so heartbroken, he wept blood. So, these religious people, and like the Catholics and all that, when they drank the blood of Christ, they're not was crucified. They're drinking the blood of the betrayal of Christ, because they're all a cult. And they, there isn't a religion out there that isn't connected to child abuse. And I'm not saying it's like the followers and all of that, but certainly the people that stand up on the pulpits and preach the name of the Lord. And so that's where I come in. And this is what I think Micah was involved in. I think that's one of the reasons why they killed her, because she knew things, or they were afraid that she was going to say stuff. But she just wanted to be rid of him. She just wanted to get rid of it and put it all behind her. So what I did was I gave them my blood, knowing my children were raised knowing that I was going to be betrayed at some point. We just didn't know where. They've always known that this was going to happen, that what happened to me was going to happen. We just didn't know from what angle it was going to come from. But I told them that there would be fake news about me. I told them that people would fake things about me to try and feed to the community in order to destroy my reputation, because that's what narcissists do. When they're threatened by your light, when they know that you're going to surpass them, the first thing they do, other than chip away at your confidence and your smash your dreams, is destroy your reputation. They wanted to make sure that nobody would give me contracts, that nobody would want to work with me, that no man would want to be with me, that everybody would think I was crazy. So when I went to people like Vladimir Putin and the King and said, hey, look, you need to look at this information. I'm a scientist, this is what I do, blah, 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 and I've uncovered this. They'd look at my background and say, oh, no, she's nuts. They put her in a nut house. But it was all done on purpose, and that's what Micah's husband did. Put her in the nut house. Nobody even heard her side of the story. Nobody looked at my side of the story, because I'm just a minister. I work for the Lord. I'm an art director. She's just, all she does is just make these little videos and that, but nobody looked at the videos I was making. Because if they do look at the videos that I make, they'd be like, holy shit, the supernatural is real. And there is a difference between the paranormal and the supernatural. Now, the thing is, you look at all my students, and Chris and Andy and Jess and Dan and all the goths and that he hangs around with, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with goths, but these people are in their 40s and 50s and they're still dressing like vampires. Like, there's some childhood issues there, that repressed childhood issues there that need to be dealt with. If you're in your 50s and you're wearing ladies' stockings and dressing around like a vampire in your 50s, there's something going on. You know, he started buying books about the occult that were wrong, started doing sacrifices and ceremonies, and, you know, doing artwork where it was like doing occult rituals, and wearing horns on their head and the daggers. He's got art on his wall where this shaman, he's like a witch doctor shaman, has got the same dagger in his hand that he was then selling on eBay with my indigenous healing oils, that he was selling as pagan ritual oils. So he went down the dark path. They go down the dark path. They all went down the dark path. They all live in the paranormal realms, you know, tarot readings. I'm going to be making tarot cards. I've spent decades studying tarot, and there's a couple of decks that I want to work on. You, as an adult, you shouldn't be using tarot. Tarot are like a tuning fork, but my tarot cards that I want to do, while I will have adults doing them, they're not going to be like normal tarot cards. It's more to do with helping train the reader and guide the client in the ascension process, in the healing process, rather than using it to predict and saying what's going to happen and, you know, telling stories and that sort of thing. It's more like this is what needs to be worked on, and this is going to happen as a, you know, watch out for this person, and like I do. My cards will help them read people more like I do. Not time jumping with like the high funk therapy through the medium of card readings. The coffee cup readings and the tea leaf readings and the palm readings and that obviously is completely different, but tarot readings were the original design of the tarot card comes from the 15th century from Germany, and then the Medicis in Italy and that picked it up and turned it into a whole prophecy thing. But originally tarot cards were a form of, they were a psychological tool to help you understand your mind and your mood. And then it was the Medicis in that then took it and turned it into like a parlour game where they would, you know, read for each other and predict their futures. And then, of course, by the Victorian era, everyone was using tarot to do, you know, parlour room entertainment, and it became like, because the Victorians were fascinated with death and the occult. They were surrounded by it. So my cards are going back to the original use of them from the 15th century. So um, that's the path I've gone down, whereas the path his lot went down, um, Nikki and Ria, and because I told them, don't do tarot, don't do this, don't do that, they didn't listen. Sand tarot, and now look, they're all going to go down as in history as a cult who helped protect and cover up for an international sex trafficking, pedophile, grooming gang, organ harvesting ring in the highest um, seats of power because they didn't listen and they failed the Judas test. I knew the betrayal was coming. I collected my blood and I fed drops to them through the course of their training, through the course of our sessions and stuff. And then I sat back and I watched and I waited and I just prepared the boys, get ready. I said, I don't know if we're going to have to flee. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's going to be a lot of fake news. There's going to be things that are said about me that aren't true. And before you believe anything, come to me and say, is that true? Because I knew it was coming, because my teacher said it was. My teacher prepared me in the 90s. That's why I'm not fazed by any of it, because she said, you'll come out the other end, and the world's going to know your name, because you're here to fulfill an ancient prophecy where a woman, the whale rider, the white buffalo calf woman, rising from the earth, from the bowels of the earth, New Zealand's a volcanic island, the barefoot warrior, the barefoot woman, drawing the four corners of the world together in order to unite humanity, in order to gather together all the colours of the world, black skin, red skin, yellow skin, white skin, brown skin, and unite and build a better world, a harmonious one. That's an ancient prophecy. It's God knew it. Cave paintings knew it. They're all indigenous cultures. My Egyptian ancestors. There's stuff about me on cave paintings in Portugal and in Mayan temples, and they all knew that I was coming. And now I've got the king and Vladimir Putin, so the corners are starting to come together. So yeah, so this Micah thing, she ended up, and I'm just realising this is kind of technically my fourth post about her, which ties back into the dream where I was picking up all the mail and all the posts and putting it together and putting them in the right boxes. So she came to me for more than one reason, not only to help people, help her family, direct the investigation where it needs to go, but to also tell her side of the story, because I know what it's like to have a husband, or in my case ex-husband, tell people that you're crazy and they believe you. She was forced to take medication she didn't deserve to be on. I was force-fed medication that almost killed me. And then making sure that cops, doctors, judges, lawyers, social services, all of them knew, yeah, she's got a mental health disorder. Yeah, mental health. And it turns out the only thing I was diagnosed with in the end was severe PTSD from narcissistic abuse. Once they let me go, that was it. Everybody else I was locked up with had to take medication forever. They were even told, if you don't take your medication, we'll cut your benefits. They have to have follow-up appointments and stuff like that. So they the thing is, they know I'm just waiting for the opportunity to present everything to a judge, to a court, because then I've got someone who can help me reach the king and say, although at the time, but it sounds like I've already reached the king. The fact that he didn't sign that thing that Starmer took to him yesterday, the fact that he was looking into those ancient laws with that Lord, like I said he would, he's listening somewhere along the line. So I'm part giving advice to empaths who are in narcissistic relationships. And the narcissist doesn't have to be someone you're in a sexual relationship with. Your narcissist could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be someone you work with, but you'll know the signs because I've just told you. I've got plenty of videos there. My Oracle of Delphine videos are specifically to help the high funk, why you can't meditate, why you have sleep paralysis, all that sort of thing. It's all there. My eye in the sky videos are the ones where you see me time jumping. And I want to be able to go to places when I'm free, where I can do it even more now, because now I've mastered my craft. Now I'm like a fully fledged time jumper. I want to be able to see the things that I can see and get it all on video so that I can show people this is the supernatural. And when I do come across paranormal stuff, I can explain it and fix it. And I've got a range of products like my rehua spray and my tane clay that I will then sell in my stores that people can use to stop the paranormal activity. And then, of course, my Connecting the Dots podcasts do all the unsolved armchair stuff to give people a different perspective. Oh, I never thought of it like that. I never considered that that's what it could have been. And then my Oracle of Delphine is for the high funk to say, look, I know what you're going through. I understand your pain. This is what it is. This is what you need to do. I'm going to walk you through. Just take my hand and follow the light. I'm going to take you to the light at the end of the tunnel. Because it's only the high funks that are given the opportunity to ascend. Because what they create from their gifts and talents ends up having influence and an impact on people's lives long after they're gone. And she was heading down the road of music and singing and that, where she probably should have gone into gospel music, where she would have gone into gospel music, I'm pretty sure. And she would have made a name for herself as a gospel singer. Country, maybe a bit of country, but, you know, sort of your Shania Twain sort of can go either way. A bit of this, a bit of that. Because she loved God and she loved singing about God, and she loved that connection with God. She felt God through her music, and he hated that because he was the minister. He felt God in him, and he pronounced the word of God in that, whereas she sung God. And the strongest, highest vibrations in the world is love, laughter, music, and faith. And she had the power of all four coursing through her veins, and he couldn't stand that. He was the mirror image. High funks will have a doppelganger. I call it the doppelganger. You have a doppelganger, and there's a doppelganger effect, and they mimic you. And so he tried to embody that love, light, laughter, and God, faith, not God, faith, in his sermons and that, but it was fake. He mirrored her, but it was false light. But she was the real deal, and they are always threatened by the real deal. So if you can identify with this, now you know why. And what I've been saying from day one through all of this, if you have to stand on your own and stand alone and have no support other than that of your truth and your integrity and your faith and your conviction in who you are as a good person, leave everyone behind and just stand on your own 2 feet, because you're all you're ever going to need to get you through this, as long as you've got your faith. Don't let anyone tell you you're something you know you're not, and always choose you. When it comes to mollycoddling their feelings and appeasing them and walking on eggshells to, stroke their egos and soothe them, bollocks to that. Choose you. Always put you first. You're here in this life for you and no one else. You're responsible for all your choices and decisions, including the people that you allow in your life. And as conscious beings, we are all here in this life not only to pay off karmic debt and ancestral debt, like past life karmic debt and ancestral debt, but we're here for the learning experience. There is no other conscious soul on the planet that has as complex has as a complex learning evolution than that of man. There is no animal, mineral, or vegetable that will have the trials that man has. And as learning souls, we are all about taking the classes to perfect ourselves to be the highest evolved spiritual beings that we can be when we're not in physical form. And when you let other people guide your spiritual development and tell you who you are as a person, when you know it's wrong, because with the gaslighting and that, the narcissists, they love to tell you you're wrong. They love to point out all the mistakes that they think you've made, even though you know you're wrong. And that's where the brain damage comes in, the hippocampus, the shrinking of the hippocampus. When you're trusting your intuition and you're speaking your truth to them, or you're pulling them up about something that you know to be true, and your instincts and your intuition are saying blah, and then they say no, you're wrong, that releases cortisol in the brain. It's like a stress hormone. And then when you have an overload of that, or it's constant, where you're constantly being stressed out by being told no, you're wrong, that shrinks the hippocampus, and then you have the memory loss issues, and you forget the small details, and then they call you ditzy. God, what's wrong with you? You've been so ditzy. Why are you so forgetful all of a sudden? What's wrong with you? That. So you have to choose you, because if you don't choose you, they're going to kill off all the things that God made beautiful about you and why he put you here on this earth. So always choose you. Don't worry if people are jealous or offended or threatened or whatever. You're not here for them, you're here for you. And if you have to be by yourself and have no one else in your life, you've chosen you. And your faith will get you through it. And keep laughing and keep loving and keep surrounding yourself with music and follow the faith, because it always gets you to the other side. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help the high funk get to the other side. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I'm going to go and get my breakfast now, because I'm starving to pieces. So she came to me for a very good reason. This is technically the 4th video about her, but she got me thinking when I was having my wash, and I just thought this was something that needed to be put out there. So I shall speak to you later. Hold your head up high and know you are loved. Ka kite anō. Mwah.